What if I told you that the single most powerful way to feel decades younger doesn't come from a pill, a supplement, or even an advanced piece of exercise equipment, but from one daily habit that your body is already wired for? Here's a striking fact. After the age of 30, we lose about 3 to 5% of our muscle mass every decade. By the time we reach our 60 or 70, this loss, known as sarcopenia, isn't just about weaker arms or legs. It's about a higher risk of falls, slower metabolism, greater fatigue, and even reduced cognitive resilience. In fact, research from Tufts University shows that muscle strength is one of the strongest predictors of longevity, stronger than cholesterol, blood pressure, or even weight. But here's the exciting part. Neuroscience and physiology both reveal that the brain and body remain highly adaptable even in later decades of life. Muscles have what's called plasticity, just like the brain does. That means with the right type of stimulus, even a few minutes a day, you can literally reawaken dormant muscle fibers, restore strength, and dramatically improve your energy, balance, and independence. This isn't about punishing workouts. It's about one daily habit, one behavior that has been consistently proven to reverse the very processes of muscle decline. Today, we're going to explore exactly what that habit is, why it works on a cellular and neurological level, and how you can apply it in a way that feels natural and sustainable. Along the way, we shall uncover some surprising science, how your nervous system talks to your muscles to keep them young, why short, daily bursts of the right kind of activity outperform long occasional workouts, how certain timing and sequencing strategies make your muscle-building hormones work with you instead of against you. And most importantly, a simple step-by-step protocol you can start tonight, no gym membership required. So if you've ever thought it's too late for me or I just don't have the energy I used to, I want you to stay with me because by the end of this, you'll see that regaining muscle strength in your 60 or 70 isn't just possible. It's your body's natural design waiting to be unlocked. If you've ever tried to lift something heavy after a long break from exercise, you may have noticed how shaky or uncoordinated it feels at first. It's not that your muscles vanished overnight. It's that the communication lines between your brain and your muscles went quiet. Here's what the research shows. Much of the age-related muscle decline we see in seniors isn't primarily due to the muscle tissue disappearing. Instead, it starts in the nervous system. Every muscle fiber is controlled by a motor neuron, like a power line delivering electricity to a house. When these power lines stop firing regularly, often because we're not using those muscles in daily life, the connection weakens. Over time, the muscle fiber essentially goes into hibernation. This process is why the phrase use it or lose it is so accurate. Neuroscientists call this motor unit remodeling. As we age, motor neurons that aren't stimulated begin to die back. But here's the empowering part. When you reintroduce even small, consistent stimulation, dormant fibers can actually be reactivated. The surviving neurons adopt orphan fibers, restoring strength and coordination. Think of it like an old neighborhood where power has gone out in a few houses. If one strong electrical line reconnects and shares its current, the lights can come back on. That's exactly what happens when you deliberately reawaken the neuromuscular system. A simple tool to apply is this. Include one daily habit that specifically requires your muscles to respond quickly and precisely to a signal from your brain. It doesn't need to be heavy lifting or complex exercise. In fact, studies show that something as straightforward as standing up from a chair without using your hands and repeating it for 1-2 minutes creates a surge of neural activation. You're not just working your legs, you're reteaching your brain how to fire those muscle groups with speed and accuracy. Have you ever noticed how athletes warm up with small explosive movements before a game? That's because the nervous system responds to signals of urgency. For seniors, adding just a few seconds of intentional controlled effort, like rising on your toes as high as possible and holding for 5 seconds, delivers that same message, stay switched on. What's happening in your brain when this occurs is fascinating. Each repetition strengthens synaptic connections, the tiny junctions where neurons talk to each other. It's the same principle used in cognitive training for memory. Repetition wires the circuit. The more often you practice a muscle-brain signal, the faster and more reliable it becomes. This also explains why many people feel more stable and energized after just a few days of consistent practice, even before visible muscle growth occurs. The nervous system adapts first, often within a week. Muscle size takes longer, but strength, balance and coordination improve almost immediately because the brain is literally reawakening its communication lines. Here sets the key protocol you can try starting today. Pick one basic movement that requires muscle-brain coordination, chair stands, heel raises, or wall push-ups. Do it at the same time each day for just 2-3 minutes. Focus on quality of signal, not quantity of reps. Move deliberately, feel the muscle contract, and maintain control. Over time, this daily practice rebuilds your neuromuscular foundation. It's like upgrading the wiring of your body so that every future effort, whether it's carrying groceries, climbing stairs, or exercising, feels smoother and more powerful. And here's the bigger takeaway: regaining strength doesn't begin with your muscles. It begins with your brain. Once you wake up those communication lines, your body remembers what it's capable of. One of the biggest misconceptions about building or restoring muscle is the belief that it requires long, exhausting workouts. That mindset alone discourages many people from even starting. But here's what the research shows for seniors. Consistency in small daily doses outperforms occasional big efforts. Think of your muscles like a savings account. If you put in a small deposit every single day, the account steadily grows with compounding interest. But if you only deposit once in a while, even if it's a large sum, the account never really stabilizes. Muscles respond to the same principle. Steady stimulation keeps them active, prevents breakdown, and creates cumulative strength gains over time. A fascinating study on older adults revealed that performing just 8-12 minutes of resistance-based movement daily produced greater improvements in strength and function than doing a longer traditional workout only twice per week. Why? Because muscles thrive on frequency of activation. Every time you load them, even lightly, you trigger a cascade of protein synthesis signals that keep the tissue alive and responsive. Here's what's happening in your body when you engage in these micro sessions. The muscle fibers experience tiny amounts of stress, enough to activate satellite cells, the stem cells of your muscles. These cells signal repair and growth. What's remarkable is that the stimulus doesn't need to be extreme. It just needs to be consistent. Over time, the repeated signals accumulate, leading to stronger fibers, better endurance, and more resilient connective tissue. Have you noticed how stiff you feel after sitting for hours, but how much better you feel after just a few minutes of walking or stretching? That's the principle in action. Even a short burst of activity restores circulation, oxygen delivery, and nerve activation. Now imagine multiplying that effect daily with targeted muscle loading exercises. A simple tool you can apply is what I call the 10-10 protocol. Choose one major muscle group, legs, chest, or back. Spend 10 minutes each day performing controlled movements that engage that group. For example, squats or chair stands for legs, wall push-ups for chest and arms, resistance band rows for back and posture. Keep the movements slow, steady, and mindful. 10 minutes may not sound like much, but when practiced daily, it builds a foundation stronger than any sporadic workout. And here's the hidden benefit. Short daily movement is far less stressful on your joints and recovery systems. Many seniors give up on exercise because they push too hard too soon and end up sore or injured. Microdoses avoid that trap. They meet your body where it is today while still nudging it forward. What's happening in your brain during this? You're training your motor cortex, the part responsible for planning and executing movement, to fire efficiently. Just like practicing a musical instrument, daily repetition ingrains the patterns so deeply that they become second nature. This is why balance improves, reaction times get quicker, and everyday tasks start feeling easier. Here's a practical way to make it stick. Anchor your microdose of movement to an existing routine. For example, right after brushing your teeth in the morning, do 2 minutes of chair stands. After dinner, spend 5 minutes with resistance bands. By linking the habit to something you already do, it becomes automatic. And if you're finding this insight helpful, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this channel. That way you'll always have access to more science-based tools to keep your body strong, sharp, and full of energy. The key is to remember, muscles don't care about the length of your workout. They care about the frequency of activation. Daily microdoses keep your system in a constant state of adaptation, like gently stoking a fire so it never goes out. When most people think about hormones, they imagine something fixed, something that simply declines with age and can't be changed. But here's what the science tells us. Your daily habits can significantly influence the release and timing of key hormones that govern muscle growth and repair. In fact, when you move, it can be almost as important as how you move. Let's start with a core principle. Your body operates on a circadian rhythm, a biological clock that regulates everything from sleep to digestion to hormone release. Muscle building hormones such as growth hormone, testosterone, and IGF-1 follow predictable rhythms throughout the day. And when your activity aligns with those natural peaks, the impact multiplies. For example, growth hormone is secreted in pulses, with the largest surge happening during deep sleep at night. But here's something fascinating. Even brief bouts of resistance activity in the late afternoon or early evening can prime your system, leading to a more robust growth hormone release once you fall asleep. In other words, the right habit before bed can set the stage for your muscles to rebuild more effectively overnight. Testosterone, present in both men and women, also responds strongly to physical activity. Research shows that resistance-based movements, even at low intensities, trigger a temporary rise in testosterone. For seniors, this rise may be modest compared to younger adults, but it's still powerful enough to signal your muscles. Stay active, stay alive. Have you noticed how your energy feels different at different times of day? For many seniors, mornings are stiff and slow, while afternoons bring a natural lift. This isn't just psychological, it reflects how your body's hormones fluctuate. By placing your daily habit during that natural window of energy, you amplify the effect and reduce the risk of injury or fatigue. Here's a simple tool to apply. If you can, schedule your microdose of movement between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. That's when muscle temperature, blood flow, and hormone responsiveness are at their peak. Something as simple as 5-10 minutes of chair stands, resistance bands, or balance drills during this window has a magnified effect compared to the same activity at a random time. And don't underestimate the role of recovery. Hormones are not only triggered by activity, but also by rest. The better your sleep, the stronger your muscle repair signals. This is why pairing evening activity with consistent bedtime routines creates a double benefit. Your brain sends the right hormones and your muscles receive them when they need it most. Think of it like gardening. You could scatter seeds randomly, or you could place them in fertile soil just before the rain. One strategy wastes effort. The other harnesses nature's rhythm. By syncing your daily habit with your body's hormonal rhythm, you're working with your biology, not against it. Here's what happens in your brain when you do this. Exercise stimulates the hypothalamus, the command center that tells your endocrine glands when to release hormones. Regularly activating this circuit essentially reminds your system to stay youthful in its signaling. It's like keeping an orchestra in tune. The music flows more smoothly when each section plays at the right time. So instead of thinking you need endless supplements or complex interventions, remember this: your body already has the hormonal machinery to restore strength. You simply need to cue it daily and at the right time to let it do what it was designed to do. When we talk about rebuilding muscle, most people immediately think, I just need more protein. And while protein is essential, the truth is more nuanced. Seniors often eat enough protein overall, but the way it's used by the body and the timing of intake makes all the difference. Here's what the research shows. Our muscles operate under a principle called the muscle full effect. After you eat protein, your body begins the process of muscle protein synthesis, essentially turning amino acids into new muscle tissue. But this process doesn't last indefinitely. After about 3 hours, the muscle reaches a full point, and any extra protein consumed beyond that won't stimulate more growth. It's like pouring water into a sponge. Once it's saturated, the rest just drips off. For younger adults, the sponge absorbs more efficiently. But with age, muscles become less sensitive to protein signals, a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. That means a senior eating the same protein-rich meal as a 25-year-old won't trigger the same growth response. The good news is that daily movement, the very habit we're focusing on, resensitizes the muscles to protein. In other words, your exercise and your nutrition act like two halves of the same key. One primes the lock, the other turns it. Have you ever noticed how much more satisfying a meal feels after a brisk walk or light activity? That's your body telling you it's primed to use the nutrients you just gave it. The same is true for muscle recovery. When you perform a microdose of movement and then follow it with a moderate serving of protein, say 20 to 30 grams from eggs, fish, beans, or Greek yogurt, you maximize the anabolic signal. A simple protocol to apply is this: anchor your daily habit to a protein-rich snack or meal. For example, perform your 10 minutes of resistance activity in the late afternoon, then have a protein-focused dinner, or if mornings work better, follow your practice with a protein-rich breakfast. It's less about total grams and more about pairing movement and nutrition to open the muscle's door when it's most receptive. Another important point: spreading protein intake evenly across the day is far more effective than loading it all at once. Many seniors eat little protein at breakfast, a bit more at lunch, and then a heavy dose at dinner. That uneven pattern misses multiple opportunities to trigger muscle protein synthesis. By aiming for 20-30 grams at each meal, you give your muscles 3 solid chances to grow instead of just 1. Here's what's happening in your brain during this process. After protein consumption, amino acids in your blood signal the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, which in turn influence muscle-building hormones like IGF-1. Movement before eating strengthens that signal, creating a powerful synergy between your nervous system and your nutrition. If you've been discouraged by the idea that age limits your muscle potential, this is where the science provides real hope. Even older muscles respond robustly when the right conditions are created: consistent stimulation plus properly timed protein. It's not about eating more, it's about eating smart, in sync with your daily habit. And if you're finding these science-backed tools valuable, I'd encourage you to join this community by subscribing. Together, we're building a library of practical, neuroscience-driven strategies that help you stay strong, vibrant, and independent for life. The key takeaway here is simple: protein isn't just fuel, it's a signal. And when paired with your daily habit of movement, it tells your body, grow stronger, rebuild, restore. That's how you reignite the very machinery of youth within your muscles. When most people think of muscle strength, they picture lifting weights, pushing heavy objects, or flexing bigger biceps. But the truth is, one of the most powerful ways to restore strength as we age doesn't come from brute force at all. It comes from balance and stability training, the kind of movements that look simple on the outside, but transform the deepest layers of your muscle system and nervous system. Here's why this matters. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury in older adults. But falls don't happen simply because someone is weak. They happen because the small stabilizing muscles, the ones around your hips, ankles, and core, stop firing the way they used to. These muscles don't get much attention in traditional strength training, yet they're essential for every movement you make, from stepping off a curb to turning quickly when someone calls your name. Research shows that balance training doesn't just prevent falls. It actually strengthens muscles by recruiting fibers that aren't activated during traditional exercise. Think of it this way: big muscles are like the visible scaffolding of a building, but stabilizers are the nuts and bolts that hold it all together. Without them, the whole structure wobbles. Have you ever tried standing on one leg with your eyes closed? Notice how your ankle, calf, and core suddenly wake up as they fight to keep you steady. That's your stabilizing system in action. With daily practice, those micro adjustments become faster and stronger, creating a foundation of strength that supports every other exercise you do. A simple tool to apply here is the 30-second rule. Each day, practice standing on one leg for 30 seconds at a time. Hold onto a chair or wall for safety if needed. Over time, increase the challenge by turning your head side to side or lightly closing your eyes. These small variations force your nervous system to adapt, training the brain-muscle connection for real-world situations. Another powerful practice is dynamic balance. Movements that mimic daily life. For example, walking heel to toe across a room or stepping sideways over a low obstacle. These drills don't just build balance, they rewire your brain's proprioception, the ability to sense where your body is in space. Improved proprioception means faster reactions, greater coordination, and more confidence in every step you take. Here's what's happening in your brain when you train balance. Your cerebellum, the part of the brain responsible for coordination, becomes more efficient. Neurons fire more rapidly, synapses strengthen, and the connection between your inner ear, eyes, and muscles becomes sharper. This integrated system is what allows you to move with agility and precision even as you age. And here's the inspiring part. Improvements can happen quickly. Studies show that just a few weeks of consistent balance practice lead to measurable gains in stability, strength, and confidence. Unlike muscle size, which may take months to visibly change, balance systems adapt almost immediately, often within days. If you think about it, balance is the hidden foundation of freedom. When you can move without fear of falling, every part of life feels more open. You walk taller, climb stairs more easily, and engage in activities you might have avoided. That confidence alone is a form of strength. So while balance drills may not look as dramatic as lifting weights, they build the quiet strength that keeps you safe, mobile, and independent. It's not just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. At this point, we've talked about the nervous system, microdoses of movement, hormonal timing, protein, and balance. But there's one final piece that determines whether these habits stick: psychology. Because the truth is, it's not just your muscles that need training, it's your mindset. Here's what the research shows. Most people fail to maintain new habits, not because they don't know what to do, but because they frame it incorrectly. They think of exercise or healthy routines as tasks on a to-do list. And when life gets busy, those tasks are the first to be skipped. The real breakthrough happens when you shift from intensity, I must do a huge workout, to identity, I am the kind of person who moves every day. Have you noticed how much easier it is to brush your teeth every night than to start a new exercise program? That's because brushing isn't a task anymore. It's part of who you are. Identity-driven habits are sticky because they align with your sense of self. Once you see yourself as someone who values strength and vitality, the daily micro habit becomes automatic. A simple tool to apply is this: attach an empowering statement to your daily practice. For example, when you do your 5-10 minutes of movement, quietly say to yourself, I am rebuilding my strength every day, or I am someone who takes care of my future self. Over time, these statements aren't just words, they become a reflection of your identity. Another key principle here is momentum. Behavioral science shows that success builds on success. The first small action, even just 2 minutes of practice, creates what psychologists call a success spiral. That spiral generates confidence, which leads to more action, which reinforces identity. It's not willpower driving the change, it's momentum. Think of a train starting from rest. It takes effort to move those first few feet, but once it's rolling, it gathers speed almost effortlessly. Your daily habit works the same way. At first, it feels like effort, but soon it becomes momentum, and momentum is much harder to stop than to start. What's happening in your brain during this process is equally fascinating. Each time you repeat a habit, you strengthen neural pathways in the basal ganglia, the brain's habit center. Over time, the action requires less conscious effort. It shifts from being something you have to remember into something that happens automatically, like tying your shoes. Here's another practical technique. Track your wins visually. Use a simple calendar or notebook. Every day you complete your habit, put a check mark. This creates a chain effect. You'll want to keep the streak going. Psychologists call this the don't break the chain method, and it's one of the most reliable ways to build lasting habits. And remember this, intensity fades, but identity remains. You might miss a day, or some days will feel harder than others. That's okay. What matters is that you keep returning, because every return reinforces the message, I am someone who doesn't quit on my strength. This is the psychology that turns a 2-minute movement into a lifelong transformation. Because once you see yourself as strong, capable, and resilient, your actions naturally align with that belief. In the end, restoring muscle strength isn't just about biology, it's about who you believe yourself to be. And when identity drives the habit, momentum carries you the rest of the way. We've covered a lot of ground today, and if there's one message I want you to walk away with, it's this: your body is not past the point of renewal. Muscle strength, energy, balance, these are not things you lose forever with age. They are systems waiting to be reawakened by one simple daily habit. Let's just recap what we uncovered. First, strength begins in the nervous system. When you reactivate those muscle-brain connections, you flip the switch that turns dormant fibers back on. That's why even a few minutes of daily activation can make you feel steadier and more powerful almost immediately. Second, muscles thrive on frequency. Daily microdoses of movement, short bursts of resistance or stability work, are far more effective than long occasional workouts. It's about deposits made every day, not occasional splurges. Third, timing matters. Your hormones, growth hormone, testosterone, IGF-1, follow natural rhythms. Aligning your habit with those rhythms, especially in the late afternoon or early evening, amplifies the signal for repair and growth. Fourth, protein is not just fuel, it's a message. When paired with daily movement, protein tells your muscles to rebuild, spread it evenly across your meals, and you triple the opportunities for growth each day. Fifth, balance training is strength training in disguise. Those small stabilizers around your core, hips, and ankles are the hidden guardians of independence. Training them not only prevents falls, but rewires your brain for faster, more confident movement. And finally, psychology is the glue that holds it all together. It's not about intensity, it's about identity. The moment you see yourself as someone who invests in their strength daily, the habit sticks. Momentum grows, and your actions follow naturally. So what does this mean for you? It means that regaining strength doesn't require drastic changes. It doesn't demand hours at the gym. It begins with one daily habit, a 2 to 10 minute practice that you repeat consistently. That's the seed. Over time, it blossoms into stronger muscles, sharper balance, better energy, and a renewed sense of confidence in your body. And perhaps most importantly, this habit is a message to yourself. Each time you choose to move, to engage, to activate, you're saying, I still value my strength, I still invest in my future, I am not done growing. That mindset alone is transformative. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, pick one habit. Maybe it's standing up from a chair 10 times, or holding a balance pose for 30 seconds, or doing wall push-ups before dinner. Keep it simple, keep it consistent, and watch how your body responds over the next few weeks. And as you do, I invite you to share your journey with this community. Leave a comment, let us know what daily habit you've chosen and how it feels after a week. Your story might inspire someone else to begin. If this message resonated with you, I'd also encourage you to like this video and subscribe. Not because of numbers, but because together we're building a space where science meets daily practice, where age is not a decline, but a season of strength, wisdom, and renewal. Remember this, you are not too old. It is not too late. Your muscles are listening, your brain is adaptable, and your body is capable of more than you think. All it takes is one daily habit to restore the strength that has always been yours.